just, by way of introduction, first of all, thank you very much for coming. I know how busy everybody is, academics, students, everybody's very busy at the moment, so we really appreciate the opportunity to come and have a chat to you, and I hope you can get something out of it, which is certainly what it's all about. So just by way of an introduction, I'm not sure all of you have read the blurb that Diane and Nishesh have been pushing around, but I'm Ian Durbin. I am a visiting professor here at UCL. I graduated in 1984, which is probably 20 years before, I worked that out, at least 20 years before you were born. So that just goes to show how old I am. But I was lucky enough to have done a course which is very similar to yours, which sadly doesn't exist anymore, but it was a joint course between architecture, engineering and structures, MEP engineering and structures. So I understood the power of that course. I've had 35 plus years in industry, and I think I have a bit of wisdom in the broadest sense, which I would like to pass on to you. So my world was different back then. It was much slower pace. I won't go through all the things I could remind you of, but everything was no CAD, no computers. We didn't have any computers at all when I went to university. Much slower pace in terms of work, the world of work. And the biggest thing is, it was only latterly that we became aware of the power of carbon. So I spent the first 3/4 of my career not worrying about carbon at all, which of course is very interesting. But your world, and you probably feel this already, but you wait until you get out into the big wide world after this university, is going to be dominated by carbon. So that's the biggest change, I think. Those two biggest changes I think you're going to have to navigate in your career. The awareness of carbon and how central that is to everything you do, and the pace and the sort of the deadline-driven environment that we live in today. But it's going to be a challenge for you, but also hugely rewarding. In terms of your ability to have a demonstrable impact in saving the world in terms of climate change and climate emergency is incredible. I mean, what a rewarding job to be in. If I was your age now, I would definitely thrust myself into this career again, because it's going to be amazing. So the real purpose of these talks is, how can I pass my wisdom to you? Because I never had any connectivity with industry when I was at university. So how can the wisdom of people who've done things for 30 odd years, how can we pass that back to you? Because we need you, the world, your university, your employer, we all need you to be as effective as quickly as you possibly can. And I think some of that wisdom that James and I have got will help you to get there. But it's not just my wisdom, and it's not just James's wisdom. I'm lucky enough to know a large number of people in the industry across all the disciplines you can think of, and probably even disciplines you don't even know exist. So they all have their own snippets of wisdom. So again, the purpose of this series of talks is to get as many people to meet you and to pass on some of that wisdom for your benefit. This is just about, we're doing this just for your benefit. So the purpose, the vehicle for this is a monthly talk, which will be advertised hopefully well in advance, throughout this academic year, break for the summer, and then back again for the following year as well. The next talk is towards the end of this month. I can't remember the exact date, but that is Oliver Milton, who leads Hawkins Brown Architects in London, who I think was responsible for some work at UCL. They're one of the sort of leading architects in the UK. So he's going to bring his wisdom as well. So as I say, this is all about us passing our wisdom to you. That's the purpose. And we're on your side, honestly. We're here to help you to be as good as you can be. So that's my bit done. So I'm lucky enough here to introduce James Ford, who is a director at Hoare Lea. And James will tell you a little bit about himself in a while, but I've known James for 25 years. He joined Hoare Lea as a graduate where I worked, and I've watched his career develop over the years, and I'm very proud that he's here today, which is fantastic. And James currently sits in a very senior leadership. There's 4 people who run Hoare Lea, and James is one of them. So you're getting some really, really good wisdom in the room today. And unlike me, James's entire career has been carbon awareness. So he's got a lot that he can bring to you in terms of that wisdom. And I think, and James is probably too embarrassed to say this, but because I know a bit more of the wider industry than James does, there are a very small number of people in this industry who are pushing the industry forward and actually making the changes that the industry needs to make it super relevant for the next 30 years. And James is one of those. So, you know, I would say you are getting significant wisdom from James. So if you can listen and engage with the whole process, that would be fantastic. And James will be talking for about 25, 30 minutes, something like that. So we would welcome, James and I would welcome any questions at any stage. If anybody's got any questions about anything you see on the screen you don't really understand, or you want to ask any further questions, just put your hand up and I'll stop James and we can go for that. But there's also a bit of Q&A session at the end. So if you don't feel brave enough to ask your questions as we're going, then save it up and we'll cover that at the end. Okay, any questions so far? In which case, I'll hand over to James.
Thank you, Ian. You made me blush with compliments.
I knew I would. Apologies.
Okay, so bear with me. We've got a couple of minutes of, I guess, an insight in the carbon context of our organisation that will set the scene a bit.
Sound.
It's 2030. We are the go-to consultancy in the UK for net zero carbon. We've achieved our science-based targets, setting the standard for everyone at Tetra Tech. We measure energy use on all our projects, the data driving continuous improvement. We're vocal and proud of our work, leading the industry in creating a better built environment. Net zero carbon inspires our innovations. AI has transformed the way we work and our relationships with clients. We have a unified purpose, working towards a common good. We're readying ourselves to push towards new heights of excellence. This feels great. It's 2024. There are huge challenges within the industry and in society, but we have our North Star guiding us. Net zero carbon is a strategic business priority. We've committed to halve our emissions by 2030 and signed industry-recognised environmental pledges. There's no turning back. We've broken the net zero carbon challenge into 5 areas, encompassing everything from business emissions and project performance to industry leadership and commercial opportunities. We're just beginning to experiment with AI, and we're excited by the potential. We've got people across the business fueling the conversation and pushing for action. We're learning and improving all the time. The scale of the task is scary, but the challenge is exciting. What do we need to do right now to make our 2030 vision a reality? We must all start making steps, big or small, whether reducing the firm's carbon footprint or driving net zero carbon on projects. How will we show the rest of the world that Hoare Lea is doing the right thing? There's no more time to wait. 2030 is going to be an amazing year, but we must act now. Challenge accepted.
Okay, so I thought that might be a nice introduction into the essence of who Hoare Lea are, and then that gives a bit of a backdrop as to, I guess, the slightly wandering conversation I might have about looking at my career, but also what I might draw on to pass on insight for yourself. So that net zero carbon piece, I lead the strategy for the organisation, and that was some great collaboration in the organisation to come to that. That was launched on Earth Day last year. And we are on our mission between now and 2030 to achieve the ambitions that we've set there. So who am I? Chatting to Dan and Ian. Whereas Bath in 1984, I was in University of Strathclyde between 1997 and 2001 in a very similar course to that which you are on. Dan has trumped that course, however, because I believe all 3 streams are accredited and only 2 were accredited in the University of Strathclyde. But it is an extremely good foundation for coming into the industry. I think that the connection with industry is that crucial link. I didn't have that either, really. But the awareness and the knowledge of the spread of disciplines equips you so well for when you land in the industry. So I think one thing I'd say is land with confidence, and then we'll talk about the challenges, etc. that go from there. I've been at Hoare Lea since I graduated, originally starting as a mechanical engineer. I got to the point where I thought actually, in essence, I wanted to move more into the kind of the sustainability influence. That's where sustainability had kind of became a thing in the industry in the UK. So I transitioned into that. And then more latterly, with the success and the growth of sustainability and really managing to amplify the impact there, both in Hoare Lea and industry, then I've grown into 2 other primary roles as head of product and innovation, which I'll touch on as we go through, and then also in advisory and advocacy. More latterly, we've become part of a global group in Tetra Tech, and so the influence extends beyond the UK, and I'll touch on that as well. So if I look back, because I guess I was, at one point I wasn't sure, was I going to be a mechanical engineer or was I going to be an architect? My course had 2 years of a foundation and then you had to choose. I didn't think I had the creativity to be the architect, so I chose the engineering. I must admit, every so often I reflect back and think, well, maybe I could have been. But when I landed, I arrived at Hoare Lea and my very first project was Bishop Square. Now, what part of the draw was that was a Foster and Partners project. So I spent 4 or 5 years working, really embedded with Foster and Partners. It was actually quite a fortunate experience where once we'd been through part of the design process, we were co-located in the same location, right next to the development in Spitalfields in Shoreditch area. That meant you got the experience of university, of academic integration, and suddenly architects, structural engineers, and engineers all together. I'll come on to later some of the, I think there was maybe a series of meetings. Now, Foster and Partners, wow, every day, 10 different options. Every single day, 10 different options for every single thing. And that aspiration for excellence, that perfection drove what they could do. In our space, we could not respond to that. We were like, oh, these kind of laggards who turn up and say, okay, we've assessed 1 of your 10, and it kind of doesn't work. So we'll come back tomorrow and do the same. Now that went on. We successfully navigated that, and that was pre any regulatory influence around carbon. The driver really was the facade system there was quite progressive. They'd taken inspiration from previous Foster's projects, but they were very much driving the agenda at that point. One new change next to St. Paul's, which you can see in the visual, was led by Jean Nouvel. And when I was studying, Jean Nouvel was an inspiration to me. So again, it was another tick, great, another architect, getting to work with them. And this time we were more expressive as engineers. The dynamic of that development is we have offices on top and then retail development below. And if you share energy, particularly from a supermarket, a Marks and Spencer's type food retail, you can take an awful lot of heat and then pass it through to the office and vice versa. And so there's actually a very, very advanced ground source system in that building, which then enables energy sharing as well. And the facade system similarly was really quite progressive. And regulation was starting to come in and starting to drive the industry, where the supply chain was seeing opportunity to improve their building products. Then on to Neo Bankside, which was a Rogers Stuck Harbour scheme. So another one, excellent, Richard Rogers. It was quite interesting, the different dynamic between Rogers and Foster's. Every Rogers meeting, there were 4 senior architects. They didn't come with 10 options, they came maybe with 4, because they'd already eliminated the other 6. Foster's were, let's just throw everything at it. And at this point, regulation was still moving on, and we were very much underpinning the look, feel of the architecture. There was the engineering systems, but the evaluation of potential climate impacts on energy performance, carbon performance, overheating risk was starting to become quite significant. And what I had in my early days, and these were all as an engineer, this progression of how the industry was moving and also how the demands and the different dynamics between engineers and architects was out of sync. We were very much constantly trying to play catch up. And I will reflect on that as we move forward. So Earls Court London, I think pretty much in the whole period, captures all of the time I've been in or have been associated in sustainability. So I transitioned into this. This is a large-scale master plan, if you're not familiar and aware, which has been through a few iterations. So I started working on this in 2010. And the most recent application has been submitted. And this is now a serious development in terms of global enterprise as to what they're trying to achieve. So they are trying to go beyond net zero, bearing in mind they're going to build out for probably 15 to 20 years from the point where they get permission. The social, economic, and ecological biodiversity is very well considered. You're now complementing net zero carbon effectively with net zero water because of the impacts we're seeing in impacts around water. And part of our work was to research and provide the foundation for establishing this as a climate tech centre for London, for the UK, and even in Europe. So the extent of our reach was starting to grow, which means, I think, is from the more humble, subservient position of working with Foster and Partners, we're starting to become a stronger player as a peer to influence how you bring forward developments with as ambitions as this. So this period, when I took over running our sustainability group, we were about 14 people. By the time we'd finished, for me to move on, they were over 100. And much of that happened during COVID. So when COVID hit, to then amplify, and it was how the stars aligned, I'm not quite sure, but the appetite to drive forward on sustainability really came at the same time. Now, the working environment and how you do that, it was quite a challenge. But because we went with the opportunity, the ability to influence and be very much part of what is now a very significant part of the conversation on each and every project with the clients, we were able to navigate. Now, you can't always do that by yourself. So it's the collaboration with others, enabling others, them enabling you, is part of that dynamic. I'll keep rumbling through, and then we can revisit on key points. So last year, we launched this new business unit, which Ian and I were admiring as I have done the marketing branding of a psychologist, economist, an engineer walk into the bar, because effectively that's what I've been able to do in my time. We have 3 psychologists who've come from an academic environment into an industry thinking, crikey, this industry really hasn't taken human orientation seriously. There's a superficial approach to it. We have economists, we have AI experts, more latterly real estate rate experts, and that's what we're starting to see is a blurring of the lines of, well, an organization that started as an engineering organization is actually growing up to be an organization that can be inclusive of a number of diverse areas of expertise, because we're not necessarily dealing with a linear formulaic process anymore. That's kind of where we were, but the challenge and the prize are far bigger, and therefore we have to deal with the problems that society is experiencing, clients are experiencing, and that means actually we need advice and expertise in a broad range. So as a humble engineer now, I'm often decidedly out of my depth working with psychologists, economists, and others, but there's a constant growth dynamic with that. You're always on your toes, and if you embrace it, it's a really exciting place to be. So that, in brief run through, is maybe more around the consultancy side, and as I say, I'll come back in. Mm-hmm. What I thought it would be worth sharing is, yeah, you can come to an organization, you can work on projects with maybe the aspirations to work with the very, very, very best. Oliver Milton, I'm aware, is one of the very best, and so that complement is going to be great, and architecturally they are making great strides, and there are many, many others. But you can also change industry as well. the opportunity to influence both through projects and clients, but also advocate and impact through stakeholder groups like the UK Green Building Council, and I'll elaborate a little bit on, is a very real, incredible opportunity, and the industry needs people to advocate and to show a way forward. Because it won't necessarily find its way through regulation and policy at the rate of change that we need. So UK Green Building Council is basically it's a charitable foundation. Its members are made up of a wide range of organisations from across the built environment, from supply chain, contractors, developers, local authorities, and consultancies.
Occupiers as well, I guess.
And occupiers as well.
Yeah.
So, and it's growing, and it's been growing over time. We've been on the journey with them for quite some time, and through part of last year, we became one of 3 organisational partners with them, with recent workshops with them, which is great. We're kind of in a place where we are enabling individuals in Hoare Lea to bring their expertise, and then for that to be shared across industry. It probably challenges the partnership dynamic that Hoare Lea once was. To be perfectly honest, Ian had no real idea, and some of the senior people didn't know what I was doing.
No. I'm finding some of this out now, James, taking notes.
And my remit in this was really enabling my colleagues to do this. Because if I was thinking, in terms of my personality trait, what I'm particularly drawn to, it's much more around the project and then creation of teams and the products and innovation that we'll talk to. I have fantastic colleagues who love to come to industry and lobby and advocate, etc. So the partnership was, well, if I can make the commercial side work and open up these opportunities that will flow through. And we built up a really good momentum, and actually it changed the perception of Hoare Lea. Whilst Ian and other senior leaders didn't quite know what I was spending money on enabling, we were making great strides.
We let you spend it.
You did. And I remember sitting in it was a award ceremony for the new London architecture. And one of our clients had been invited, and a colleague was asking them, well, what's your thoughts on Hoare Lea? I said, well, 5 years ago, I wouldn't really have thought about Hoare Lea, but now I think of Hoare Lea as leading in sustainability. So that freedom, thank you very much, paid off because we had enough freedom, but you have to deliver on that, and not just for commercial gain. In this context, it was credible because we were impacting and influencing industry. So maybe to take that to the carbon side of life, in 2019, I think it was, Advancing Net Zero program was formed. Previous political leaders had kind of kiboshed, had stopped the drive around net zero carbon in the mid 2010s to 2020s. And this came to the fore where, through collaboration, the UK Green Building Council were looking to create a framework for net zero, invited us to be part of the early partnership, and so we were core to the formation of the net zero carbon framework, defining what net zero actually means for the UK built environment, and this went on to then extend to other other green building councils and to the World Green Building Council programme. We've had, with our journey in various ways, seconded individuals to the UK Green Building Council, recruited individuals from UK Green Building Council, they've recruited them from us, so there's quite a partnership arrangement there, hence why I guess being organisational partners makes sense. One of the opportunities we had, a colleague said, okay, for a year I'd like to go and lead the programme to define the UK's whole life net zero carbon roadmap, which was published at COP26 in Glasgow. That meant it was quite a lot of work for me because he was quite a senior individual who ran our team in London. I thought, okay, right, it's worth the investment because he clearly wanted to do it. So we enabled that. Off he went. And as I say, at COP26, we, Hoare Lea, me as an extension, enabled the leadership of that programme. Government weren't asking for it. Regulation didn't suggest it was required. But the industry collaborated to make it happen. They invested to make it happen because there are big risks at play. We have to respond. And so there's an element of evolution of the industry that you'll come into. For a period it discovered it wasn't carbon aware, it was increasingly carbon aware, it was more regulatory driven, policy driven. Now policy can't keep up with actually commercial investment drivers are outstripping. Political will is outstripping. So there's a disconnect between government institutions, departments, who have net zero frameworks and policies that don't exist in regulation, but do exist as a lever for funding. So it's quite an interesting dynamic that you in the UK would land in. And I'll come to whether you to work in other parts of the globe, the context of which the UK sits with other parts. And then we went as a delegation to COP28, representing the UK and UK Green Building Council. So for an organisation that was, or could be, purely a commercial interest, actually we are influencing here in collaboration with other peers. So there are other consultancies like us that we're collaborating with like for like. And that's also an element of the industry that you'll come into. Is collaboration, if you had that in your mindset, is the primary value driver, as it were. It'll drive value in the quality of the buildings, which the clients will get. Being protectionist is probably, it's certainly going to be reducing. There's always going to be a commercial balance to achieve, but it's certainly a much more collaborative organisation, I guess, industry currently. And for me, this exemplifies that. So the UK net zero carbon building standard has never brought, well, it has brought all of these institutions together. Commercial, industry institutions, stakeholders, etc. We've never seen collaboration like that before, and this is not regulatory driven. Again, this is multi-collaboration across all these institutions, and then a plethora of organizations and literally hundreds of people who have been giving up their time to define this as how do we navigate both the, I guess, bringing forward new buildings, but the huge stock of existing buildings, and how do we define it and drive towards net zero. And as we get closer to net zero, the aspiration will inevitably be how do we become possibly regenerative if you subscribe to donut economics and that principle of actually there's a lot of damage that's been done, so actually we're going to have to try and reverse that as well. So that sits as a bit of a backdrop where influencing industry directly through projects, but actually through engagement with organizations is also a very real opportunity. And you see that within the UK, but you see similar organizations and groups existing in different parts of the world. It was interesting when there was a period where governments, local authorities, cities just declared we will be net zero by 2050, 2040, 2030. No one knew how. But they were bold enough to say that's what we'll do. Now they're wrestling with, oh, what does that mean? And can you help us? And to Ian's point, you can definitely help, because that is what you'll be landing in. You'll be landing in industry or industries in different parts of the globe where the ask will be the strongest it's ever been to solve problems that have never been solved in ways that we might not yet know how. And so collaboration, the willingness to be bold with our design solutions, ideation, etc., is paramount, really. And so to the global context, I guess I have the benefit and privilege of now being part of an organization which has a global reach. So Tetra Tech is a US-based organization originating and has grown out of a focus on infrastructure, energy, water, etc. at that scale, and has now encompassed also built environment expertise. So I sit within the High Performance Buildings Group as a kind of strategic steering committee across similar organizations to ours that exist in the east and west coast of the US. And then, whilst based in Australia and New Zealand, they extend across Asia and also into North America as well. So I had the opportunity to curate a thought leadership series around and reimagining the built environment, drawing on expertise globally, which in part was built environment focused, part was agricultural focused, part was climate resilience and adaptation focused. We had 12 different clients, sponsors, from the CEO of Gell Architects to the Crown Estate in the UK, through to UN Habitat. So we had a very diverse view and thought as to how might we reimagine the built environment, and there's a series of publications that have come with that. But that similarly is the mindset that that you would come into. I probably, how would I describe myself? Often as a pragmatic idealist. I like to go to the ideal scenario and then pragmatically work out how best we get there. I would encourage you to dream and retain that kind of aspiration for idealism, and then work out how. Because that's going to be the fun bit of working out how do we get to these inevitable solutions that we need. So this I'll pivot into my product and innovation space of going into, I guess, trying to enable foster environment. So Hoare Lea has 1,200 people in it. That's a very powerful institution, group of people. If we could get a really cohesive innovation mindset, we could achieve a lot. If I can extend that to 27,000 people across Tetra Tech, now we're starting to make great strides. In 2020, actually just before the COVID pandemic, we had an internal meeting around views going forward around digital transformation and evolution. You'll be able to pick apart my logic in this, I'm sure, but run with it. It's a very simplistic piece. So I had a conversation with the leadership at the time to say, well, if you look back in the day, there was a single role. The master builder did everything. You had the building. They covered all of the effectively architectural structure of the environment within which we existed. It did something. I mean, it served a purpose, but other things moved on. And very orientated to Hoare Lea in 1860? Well, I can't remember.
1870, I think it was.
1870. Yeah. The form of engineering consultant was born. So
1862.
1862.
Yeah.
So Henry Lee, the very first self-declared consultant engineer, worked on this hospital to bring forward ventilation systems into a healthcare setting and environment. And as you can imagine, that would have been transformational in terms of containing disease control, etc., within a healthcare setting. So you suddenly have, and I'm sure there are plenty of other examples, but you have a pivot in industry, I guess, in time where the industry is starting to wake up to the function environments within these buildings. Speaking very simplistically, indulging myself as not actually having chosen the architectural route, we have a phase of form over function. Effectively, technology couldn't keep up with the architectural ambition. So you had fantastic architectural solutions, but they wouldn't necessarily have created environments internally which would have been wholly conducive to comfort and well-being for people, and in carbon and energy terms, didn't really have to consider that. And then there was a period of time where architects and structural engineers, if there are those of aspirations, really got on well. And technology and the ability and the capability in structural engineering could enable and bring forward the architectural ambition. And you see like phenomenal forms of architecture come forward in this high-tech architectural phase. Then you come forward another period, and at this point, this building is Deloitte's headquarters at One New Change in London. It was and continues to be hailed for its human-centric, people-focused environments that it has. It's a workplace environment, but it embraced both the architectural side, the environmental engineering side, satisfying the carbon ambitions, but the environment for people, the intelligence of the building, tracking the internal comfort, the sensing, and the collation of the data to continually evolve that has started to come to the fore. So you started to see consultancy and industry starting to catch up with the ambitions for I guess, the form and the function and the purpose of buildings. Now, that kind of lead in, we're then having a conversation of our kind of general sentiment at Hoare Lea is we only do what we can do well, which is I definitely encourage you to take that into careers. I wouldn't contain yourself though, so if you can do something well, not to extend into something else, always look to grow and challenge yourselves. And Hoare Lea did that, and the industry did that. And from forming as an initial consultancy and growing, certainly in my time, 20, 25 years, we proliferated, and you don't really need to read them all, to an abundance of different specialisms. In many respects, this has fragmented the whole essence of the master builder. We can bring everything together. You've got this kind of singular kind of focus on each of these discrete disciplines, and part of the problem it causes in industry and projects is this, how do you coordinate? Now, it's really valid to have the leading expertise across all of these. Then your challenge is how do you draw on it so you don't have necessarily an inappropriate bias to one or the other. Much of it, I guess my basic reading is that buildings never really never achieved what they had to achieve. Therefore, we needed more expertise. We needed to provide better consultancy, better designs, better solutions, better construction, etc. And so we have this greater expertise here than we would if you were just a generalist. And then you have the reality that, well, human capacity can only achieve so much. If there's a lot of process that you have to go through in the design process, then clearly you can't get across all of these and be a master of all. And then we have another revolution, I suppose, coming forward. I'll let this run for a couple of minutes.
Residential is an advanced parametric tool that leverages AI for the indoor environmental analysis. Integrated as a Grasshopper plugin within Rhino, Kaleidoscope enables rapid feedback on a building design, reducing the feedback loop to just a few seconds. Kaleidoscope is intended for use in the early design stages, facilitating the holistic optimization of a building. The user interface of Kaleidoscope is intuitively designed, allowing users to easily input parameters and quickly visualize predicted results across various target metrics. The Kaleidoscope machine learning models are calibrated for residential buildings. The tool is proficient at predicting with high accuracy metrics such as daylight autonomy and overheating risk, whilst also running fast energy use intensity analysis. Kaleidoscope effectively replaces the need for time-consuming, expert-level simulations in the early design stages and expands the scope for multidisciplinary optimization at a critical point in the design process. Currently, the tool supports evaluation across 3 different UK locations: London, Bristol and Manchester. Additionally, users can export the outcomes of each input set and design iteration for further analysis. One useful feature of Kaleidoscope is the Optimization tab, which enables a multi-objective optimization process. This feature aims to combine results from different analyses into a single, optimized output, delivering the most compliant and holistic design iterations. At the end of the optimization process, a set of optimal scenarios are compiled for the user that can then be visualized for further investigation. Kaleidoscope sets a new standard for early stage design, offering both efficiency and depth in the environmental performance modeling.
So we launched this a few weeks ago. In some respects, it's nothing new, but crucially what this does is it relates directly to policy regulation, so we can use this directly on projects now. And to accelerate the design process, AI, machine learning, the use of data, is that you're going to land in a very interesting space, which is going to move again really quite quickly at quite a high frequency.
That was an internally developed product, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how is the usage of that? The adoption of that amongst the engineers?
So it's an interesting dynamic. You have those who are comfortable with engaging with something new, and those who are. This is quite different. This parametric optimization. You mean I don't need to take 2 weeks to do something that's quite detailed, complex. I can do it in 30 seconds, and I could do it live with the project team. So maybe I don't have the comfort of doing it
on my own, yeah.
And then getting organized and then bringing it out. Actually, I need to be comfortable with, let's collaborate together, let's ideate, let's work through the solutions, because I don't need to be James Ford, who frustrated the hell out of Miriam White from Foston & Partners, who kept saying, well, we're going to have to come back tomorrow, or I might have to come back next week, because it's all going to be possible. And now this is an indication of what is possible today to do that live. And that form of collaboration will allow us to present back individually, collectively, to our clients, to our project teams, various different scenarios of which we can evaluate the impact. So Sharon, who Ian you've met, we managed to persuade to join us from Databricks in Zurich. Databricks is an AI kind of software system provider, has come over. She studied at UCL, so she had a period. She's a computer scientist who then found herself in studying, exploring the built environment, doing a PhD at UCL, and then went off to work for Microsoft, then Databricks, and then had this draw to come to the built environment. You're already drawn in. You do not underestimate how many people are drawn into having that ability to positively influence. And so Sharon has come in, and her view is that the opportunity to present scenarios is going to transform how we engage with our clients, with users. If you think of yourselves, how you're coming through your academic studies, your reality is very different to Ian's and my reality of what we expect. You come to an industry which is stratified across different age groups and demographic and expectations, and think, well, what do you mean? Why can't you just show me what it's going to look like or how it's going to feel? Because, well, you can do that. It's possible. Technology is possible to create an immersive experience that you can actually, before you build it, experience it. So why not do that? And with AI, that is going to accelerate really quickly. So the ability to explore options and scenarios and then evaluate impact, probably beyond whether it's regulatory compliance, maybe more whether it's going to manage the commercial viability risk of an asset from a carbon stranding perspective in 25 years, or a resilience perspective in terms of overheating or other scenarios. That's where AI is going to take us. And so around the time I was fortunate enough to meet a futurist. Imagine a futurist, what an interesting job. Tom Cheesewright, I'd recommend actually just following Tom Cheesewright. He had a publication, High Frequency Change, and he talked about a simple thing of, it's not necessarily what will change, it's more when it will, and actually the secret is identifying when. But also the idea when you look forward with a revolution of AI, data-led, digitized world, that we're going to see convergence, because you can achieve far more than we do, well, certainly a few years ago, because you don't have all that process. What took 2 weeks takes 3 seconds or 3 minutes. So suddenly that process is gone. Okay, so that means you could do more with your time. Your capacity to know and learn could increase, and therefore the boundaries of what either the depth to which your knowledge goes, or the breadth to which it goes, presents a huge opportunity going forward. So again, I'd encourage you to come in the industry and still look up and look out to think, actually, what interests me, or what do I see connecting with other elements that might solve the bigger problems. And so with convergence, what I said to the organization was we have to at least arrange it such that similar themes are being grouped together, and so people are working together, whether they realize it or not. Again, I didn't really tell them this was happening, but this is what we're doing.
By then, that was fine.
And so we have, from the plethora of disciplines, which all exist within the organization, effectively we have an advisory and advocacy consultancy, which is much more strategic at organizational or institution level. And the advocacy is very much firmly on driving change in industry to complement that. Engineering, rather than mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, public health engineering, vertical transportation engineering, there's much more opportunity actually to bring that together, and possibly in the future we'll have singular engineering, because it's all about solving problems and having the ingenuity to solve those problems. Now, when, I'm not sure. If, I think, is highly likely, because if you can process all of the analysis, the engineering, etc., then why not have a breadth and depth? We've grouped specialisms around the principles, the essence of people moving around buildings. So the security of how people move, the safety around fire escape, and the transportation of those individuals, all fundamentals when you think about the core principles of designing a building. The vertical routes, the stairs, how many staircases you need if you think about the Building Safety Act, all are effectively around people movement. And then senses is air quality, lighting, acoustics. Actually, if people are thinking more about the creation of environments, why not master all of those disciplines so that you know what you're influencing the creation of the environments? And then sustainability is effectively the outcome of those. Whilst I spent a lot of time in sustainability and I have a remit as head of innovation, I find those words are they're troublesome and difficult. Sustainability is the outcome of everything, basically. So therefore, it's not the preserve of a certain part of the industry or certain consultancy. And innovation, similarly, is the preserve of everyone. And so I'm going to guess I'll close with my view is these are maybe fundamental pillars of, you might operate across all of those. You might gravitate to one or more of them. But you could apply different subject matter, and if that subject matter becomes deeper or shallower, you could be a strategist and analyst, drawing on the assistance of AI. You could be a designer who really understands the art of what is being created, not necessarily purely the quantitative metrics that are being achieved. The engineers, whether it's structural, whether it's within the building services and the environments we're creating, and of course, is the delivery of that, bringing all these together, whether it's in groupings of disciplines or whether it's at larger scale. These effectively exist in almost every consultancy, architect, etc. They all, to an extent, manage effectively. And it's the team that invariably will solve the biggest problems that we have. So that mindset of working as a peer within the team and not worrying so much about hierarchy, etc., to solve the problems that really need to be solved is what's key. So I would say, make what matter happen. That's the most important thing, and enjoy trying to work that out and solve it as you go.
Brilliant. Well done. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a glass of water and a sit down.
shall.
You deserve it. Well done. That was
Thank
very
you.
good. Right. Okay. Hang on. Wrong one. Okay. So I'm hoping that that's fired a few neurons in your brains, and that you might have some questions to ask James or I about anything you've heard, or even some things you just generally wanted to ask, whether Hoare Lea could employ you, anything along those lines. We'd be happy to hear. So anybody got any questions?
Yeah. Yep. So this is very interesting. So my colleague Pablo is currently publicizing it heavily on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to direct you to that. And that was one of the questions, because we're getting a lot of traction from people interested. Now, in my balance between commercial interest and this being developed, I'm not quite sure yet, but we're most likely to be making it open. We'll probably just be one step ahead. So you'll have version 1 and we'll have version 2. And that would be the principle. We've been doing that for some time. Colleagues have been developing what we've called the Sustainable Analytical Model, which is all open source. So I'm actually very happy to share with yourselves the kind of what's out there, and then you can, by all means, explore and feel free to connect with colleagues of mine.
Do you use those sort of tools in your course? IES, yeah.
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 So this is in the, I guess, and I will stray out of areas that I'm expert, but in the Rhino, Grasshopper, Honeybee type suite, there's a combination of using even basic Excel, but in combination within Rhino, and then machine learning and training the engine that way. We use IES.
We still use IES.
We do?
Yeah.
And we're hoping they've reached out to us recently to collaborate on their next kind of development pipeline, because software products currently are too commercially self-interested. They actually are slow and don't enable you to do something as simple as understand an analysis, plug it into the engineering implications, and have an idea of the technical impacts and the spatial impacts. The softwares don't speak. So what we've been doing is creating an environment where we can then connect them and make them speak. It'd be much easier if they opened up their APIs and enable us to do that.
So how many of our 12, or your,
Yeah.
how many of your 1,200 people are in the sort of, in the software generation, that sort of side of things?
So it's been interesting. Generally speaking, I don't know in terms of how much UK-based institutions don't promote the more parametric, or certainly don't seem to promote the more parametric use of software. So what we've wrestled with is actually that stream of income is much more people used to IES, and therefore honed within that environment. Mm-hmm. We're in the process of then, I guess, evolving the skill base to be able to use visual coding, basically. Right. And that applies both in the simulation as well as the engineering side. That we're seeing also where we have a data skills program coming forward, because that's another part. So
for all the staff.
For all the staff,
yeah.
More concentrated use to begin with, and then growing from there, because we've kind of got 3 years to transform the skill base.
But Kaleidoscope is definitely the way forward.
Oh yeah.
So in 2030, Kaleidoscope type vehicles rather than IES, or do you see?
Well, it's interesting. So the film we have of Net Zero, yesterday I was with our digital director scoping out what's our vision of 2030. And actually, I think we have a clearer vision of 2028. And in 2030, I don't think we can actually imagine what 2030 will actually be. Because when I speak to Sharon around the AI transformation, the principles of what we'll achieve, so I think we'll be scenario analysis, it will be real time, it will be collaborative. We might have blurred some lines around disciplined expertise, I think, probably by that point. But what's possible is, as I say, potentially transformation. Yeah.
Hope to still be here by then.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Sorry. Might be easy to go on.
Yeah.
I am a student from Smart Building program.
Yeah.
And I spotted that you also say that you do something about the intelligent building in Hoare Lea.
Yeah.
And I wonder, how far have you done with it, and what do you expect to do next in the future? the intelligent building?
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks, James. That's a good
Okay,
question,
so
thank you.
as part of our advisory advocacy business unit, we have a digital advisory. So is that kind of strategic? We're reframing intelligent buildings into digital advisory, partly because the supply chain and large corporations have kind of talked about smart buildings for a long time and sold clients tech that not necessarily brings forward outcomes and solutions. The approach we're taking there is very evidence-led. So getting data from buildings, live buildings, using that data to actually indicate what trends are actually happening in buildings rather than using design as a kind of a more formulaic process, and then using that data to feed back in. So we have found with a data set that kind of included various buildings across Europe that offers the suite of office buildings, the meeting rooms were only being used 30% of the time. So for 70% of the time, they have space in these buildings that are just not being used. And yet, there's a really acute pressure on the cost of construction, the carbon impact of construction. So if you've got areas that really are not required as much, why would you build them? Well, currently you build them because the industry says that's what's needed. And the standard says that's what's required. And agents will sell buildings based on, or rent them out based on that. And this is where I would encourage you to not challenge just for challenge sake, but use evidence to challenge the norm and say, actually, well, that doesn't say that's what really is happening in the built environment. And fresh sets of eyes will be very helpful in that if you then become more evidence-led and say, well, actually things could be done differently. So we're very data-led in that capacity, and then helping clients connect with. There are very good technological solutions. Is then partnering with those technological solutions, easy for me to say, for them to bring that forward. And we see that area is activating very different perspectives in clients currently. Some developers cannot make their commercial viability work, so they have to change their model. And part of that might be actually looking to what is actually needed for their buildings.
Any other questions?
More of a general question.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've shown us this Kaleidoscope modeling software. Currently in my course, we're learning IES, and in industry, we're currently using IES as well.
Yeah.
But how would you advise us to stay relevant if you're saying by 2028?
To remain relevant, the exploration of data, managing data, is an area that I think will come forward more. We'll be data rich with the ability to run more and more scenarios. How you use that data to interrogate it for insights and trends, even create foresight, and also use that data to present it back to your colleagues or project teams is where our current focus is.
I think that's a really exciting area, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having the data is relatively new for us.
Relatively, yeah.
In the industry, not us The issue suddenly is there's so much data. What do you do with it? How do you use the data to get some real outcomes out of it? And that's a tricky area, but hugely powerful in terms of future potential.
And there's a lot of open source data that we're able to actually get a bigger macro scale view to then drill down into and draw insights from. And then another collaboration with Microsoft currently is to create a data environment that people can use. So our philosophy is we're going to empower people to have more the skills and the ability to use them. And I guess that's what we'll be looking to collaborate with people who want to work in that way.
Any other questions? Yep.
Also, I have a question. So we are studying health, wellbeing, and sustainable buildings.
Yep.
But what I noticed is that you don't have advertisements that you collaborate with health and wellbeing consultants.
Yep.
Why not? Do you?
Good question.
Very good question.
Good question.
So I, in this, give a bit of a bias towards carbon. because there's a strong narrative around that. I did also mention, I suppose, about my insecurity of being surrounded by 3 psychologists. So what preceded the more recent carbon revolution was a period around health and well-being.
Yeah.
So it was really strong for a period, it's accentuated by the COVID pandemic, and then carbon has kind of picked up. There was a very strong ESG-led drive phase as well. So where we sit, we probably, in all honesty, need to regroup around health and well-being, because health and well-being is far more complex than carbon. Carbon, in comparison, is super straightforward.
Yeah.
Health and well-being is both qualitative, subjective, quantitative, and hence why we're looking to complement the expertise around lighting, daylight, acoustics, physical environments with the psychological side. And that's where I can see it. The colleagues who've come from academia into the industry and said, wow, I've been to conferences. They say they're health and well-being consultants, but they have no credibility, not as in an academic view of that. There's no depth. They're not published. They don't have doctorates. They're just interested and passionate, and that's not a bad thing. But that's where we'll continue to wrestle, I think, with health and well-being. It's going to be a tricky one for some time. I beat the AI drum too much, probably, but because we can analyze more, it makes it more possible to, I guess, get across more of it. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yep. We've got a couple.
Oh, sorry. Go on, please.
Hi.
I'm Naysam. I'm a PhD student, and I'm working in the same topic, like using AI for predicting building energy performance in the design stage. My question is about validation process.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I want to develop a program using building physics to calculate the building performance, there is some standards such as ASHRAE 140
Mm-hmm.
to use validate the program. So how about these AI tools and softwares? For example, if I want to use these tools in the the design process, in the practice, how can I trust this software?
So I remember an early, very good question in terms of part of the challenge we will have to wrestle with. One of the early presentations around Kaleidoscope, what did it say? The wording, it caught my attention. It was predicted, and then I can't remember exactly the terminology, but the whether it was right or wrong, accurate or not. I was thinking, well, one, are we really predicting anything? And two, really it's the percentage variable from your prediction. So validating the AI, this is why we use IES. We go to the best in the industry, which we would testify would be IES, and then we're comparing models against that. Now, IES isn't perfect either. This is why we need live data to then start validating. But then you start getting to the permutations of, well, weather conditions change, occupancy conditions change. The amount of variables to validate leads me to conclude we need to be comfortable with margins of variance, and it's how tight those margins are is the most crucial thing, rather than whether you're going to go for like comparison. And that's where you find this. So I don't have a really clear, compelling response, but I think we want to be more comfortable in margins with live, kind of continual live evaluation.
I guess at some stage we will get that live feedback, won't we?
You get more live feedback, which will refine the margins, but I think you'll always have margins just because life changes every day. Environments change every day. And maybe that's an indication to try to avoid the need for everything to be accurate to the nth degree.
Good question, though.
Yeah.
Diane, sorry.
Two questions from
from your point as an employer now.
Yeah.
The first question basically how your ideal candidate looks like, what you're looking for, because
Yeah.
we are getting applications from a leading university,
Yeah.
so it's extremely competitive. What is that additional extra which makes you to invite people for the interview,
Yeah.
shortlisted? And the second part is about your culture within the company.
Yeah.
So once when you got a young enthusiastic graduates, but they really don't know still what they like or where they want to go.
Yeah.
So what are the opportunities for professional development within the company?
Good questions, Dan.
Both very good. So, firstly, I'd recommend you do a course that covers more than one discipline, much like the Strathclyde course, so similar to that. So if you come with expertise and awareness of architecture, structural and engineering, it's much easier. So you're in the right course for coming forward in terms of certainly my personal bias towards that, but I'd move on towards...
It's interesting because some of you might have heard my talk at the beginning of the first year, the students there, about real life industry. And I would echo what James said, absolutely. I mean, you maybe don't realize how lucky you are, because in a world of convergence, which is what James has just said, to have that broad background is super, super valuable. So don't overlook that superpower that gives you, because that is really powerful.
Yeah.
And capture that in your mind. Sorry,
Yeah.
James, carry on.
I guess at an individual level, you're going through the application process or interview, etc. That willingness to challenge in a constructive, more evidential way, we need that positive attitude, because we have problems we do not yet know how to solve.
Yeah.
They are there. We haven't even really firmly defined the problem, never mind solving it. So the mindset to say, okay, I can exist in that environment. I can help define it. I can help solve it. That is really crucial. If you come and it's, okay, tell me what the problem is and tell me how to solve it explicitly, and then I will do it, and I'll do it, I'll do it. That's going to be really difficult for an organization who wants to tackle the biggest challenges to then also bring you with us in doing it. Now, I'm not saying we've moved the whole organization to that space yet, by no means. But that's the space we now need to.
That's the direction of travel.
And we're building more momentum. And what's often useful is to bring momentum in at the graduate level. If I digress one moment, there was a graduate who joined us from a similar course, and within 12 months had completely transformed the way that we undertake our energy strategy work. Because he came and he said, well, why don't we do it this way? And I said, okay, well, let's collaborate together. And we standardized it, and we scaled it. And the reason that many years later we were able to transform what we did across COVID is that we standardized more progressive ways of doing things. 12 months. 12 months it took him to work that through. So that's the kind of mindset I'd say.
And that links to your second question, really, which is about the culture
Yeah.
of the organisation. So if I could just say, over the 35 years that I was in the firm, probably 30 years was about engineering excellence and looking after clients and a bit of cost control and all that in there. It's a commercial organisation. It was only in the latter 5 years of my career that I began to realise, this might be, I'm almost embarrassed saying it, but the power of culture. As an engineer, you don't really understand the terminology of culture, but I can tell you that we worked really hard in my last 5 years to actually define the culture that we wanted, and that's quite challenging, and then actually work really hard to make sure that everybody got that, and it wasn't a culture that the leaders imposed on the people. It was what the people and the leaders wanted to create together. But if you get that bit right, that is arguably the most important bit of any organisation, especially engineering. And I think we've come on leaps and bounds in that. I mean, it's not perfect, everything varies over an organisation of 1,200 people. You're going to get high points and low points, or variation around the mean. But I think the awareness of Hoare Lea, certainly when I was there, towards culture is massively transformed. And I would suspect that is the same anywhere, in any organisation. I would probably say that Hoare Lea are a little bit ahead of there, of that.
Yeah,
But, you know, most organisations nowadays understand that if you get your culture right, you get engineering excellence for free. It's, you know, you've been looking at the wrong end of the telescope. You get the culture of innovation and inquisitiveness and freedom and all that sort of stuff, you end up with the product that you want, which is engineering excellence and happy clients.
Yeah. And if I just pick up and then come back. So in the first couple of years, we intentionally enable rotation across disciplines. And that helps facilitate both the culture, but also feeds the curiosity. It took me 7 years to say, oh, actually, I'd quite like to go and do something else, but it was enabled in the business. And that's become much more activated. And last week, we've established what we've called our communities. So we have communities spanning all disciplines and kind of focused areas. Those communities are open to anyone who wishes to say, actually, I'd quite like to collaborate on that. It might be in the digital advisory space, it might be in acoustics, it might be say, I've been exploring something, I can connect two things together, we can solve this bigger problem. And so we're creating that more open, accessible opportunity to explore and then create that culture. But,
That was my question. Do you do rotations? Or?
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the rotations are really quite key because you don't really know necessarily that's for you, and so it is important, I think, that is enabled.
I've got one or two questions for you, if that's all right. How much connectivity do you have generally with what I would call industry, you know, the sort of employers of the future, the shapers of the future, like James has just said? Do you get much of that through your course? If any? Some? None? Would you say that more of this is advantageous? I mean, I'm not sort of, I know I'm asking you to vote and say we've done a great job, but I'm not, that's not what I'm after. But I mean, is it inspiring or just generally informative? I mean, I also probably don't, I would suspect that you don't know the power that you have in your hands when you leave here. Because, you know, as James has just pointed out, the world's going to change dramatically over the next 25 years. And, you know, absolutely you are the people that are going to be able to shape that. And it won't be shaped unless people like you actually put your hands up. And that's the sort of key thing that I would say that I didn't have when I was in your position as a graduate, as an undergraduate, is that I just didn't have enough confidence in or self-belief in my ability. And that took me a long time to overcome. But I would say, you know, please dial that up if you can, because you are super well placed to be able to shape this exciting world going forward. I was going to ask James a question, which is, James, I'm really, whilst I'd been at Hoare Lea and watching your career develop, I'd never really realised how much it had developed. So it was really interesting for me to watch that. But if I could ask you for 3 words, we haven't scripted this at all, so yeah. 3 words that would define the sort of things that carried you through your career, which might be interesting for the audience here to understand and maybe even to try and replicate or, you know.
Yeah. Determination.
Determination's a good one, yeah. I'm going to write them down because I'm going to ask all my speakers this. Yeah. Okay.
So that's the first and obvious one.
Determination as in stick to it and get on with it.
Yeah. If I'm allowed to elaborate a little bit.
Yes, you can.
Thanks. Yeah, I can often see, to the point of that kind of that pragmatic idealist, I can see a destination or a problem that we're trying to solve. The determination to stick with it to get to that point is what I guess I relate to.
Yeah.
Idealism is probably one. If I elaborate again, the industry is chaotic. I mean, it is. Everything's moving all of the time. So you need some things to be able to cut through all of that to see that's where we're trying to get to. in order for you to then turn up and think, actually, I can see brilliance in all of these different areas or people to then collaborate with, because then you can get to that point. So the idealism for me has been really important as that kind of North Star guiding light.
And you've got one more.
I'm
going to allow you one more.
I think. Whoa.
Perhaps you should have rehearsed it.
Yeah, it's kind of better, I suppose. You get it raw. Passion, I suppose.
Passion, that's a good one.
In life, you get challenges of up and down, etc. You've got to have a passion. I really enjoy what I do. I've really enjoyed, for a period, being an engineer. I really enjoyed driving forward with sustainability and then passing that on. And now I really enjoy the challenge of the next piece.
I was going to say that's listening to your talk, that's the thing that strikes me, is your enjoyment of embracing challenges and overcoming them is the thing that stands out. And I would say that was exactly the same in my career. I mean, almost every day I enjoyed, and that's not a bad place to be in, is it, really? If you can get a career that does that.
Yeah.
My three. While I was thinking about asking you that question, I thought about mine as well, and I can't overstate what I think the power of communication is. So, James has told you about convergence and all that sort of stuff, and clusters and whatever. I think you realise fairly early on in your career that whilst you have the power to do an awful lot as an individual, the power, if you are as part of a team, is absolutely exponentially different. So team building is great, is absolutely important, but the magic glue that makes that work is communication, I think. So definitely dial up your communication skills, and if that doesn't come naturally to you, like it didn't do to me right early on, then actually try and work on that, because it will definitely benefit you. I think openness to change, I think that's not really one word, but open doesn't sound, so I'll expand on that. So you have to understand that you're going to land at a stage in this industry where the change is going to be exponential, and very, very powerful. So embrace that and run towards it rather than run away from it. And that's definitely the thing that I would say. And then the third thing, I think, which is very, very important, that I think I only again realised right towards the end of my career, is that it does help. If you're not careful, you'll be if you imagine your career journey as a stream flowing down across the landscape. If you're not careful, you'll just drop into that stream, and your career will be whisked along by the flow and the eddies of the stream. Actually, and that's no bad thing, but actually you should take a bit of time, just a little bit of time every week, to actually think about where you want your career to go. And that's not selfishness, that's sort of very sensible in my day-to-day assessment of life, is a very sensible thing to do. So take a bit of time to plan your career rather than let it happen by other people, directing you, whatever it is. Those are my 3 words. Right. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Because I'm conscious of the fact that we were only going to go until 6, and now it's 6:30, so that must be a good thing. Any other questions? Right. Okay. James, I want to thank you enormously. James is an incredibly busy guy. You can imagine. He probably does 4 jobs in one. So to get James to prepare for this and come along has been absolutely fantastic. So I'd like to thank you once again. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you.